college kid gets bullied by cops until they discover his Marine and karate credentials. It was a quiet Friday evening on campus when James Walker, a 22-year-old political science major, stepped out of the university library, backpack slung over one shoulder and earbuds in. He was just wrapping up a long study session, gearing up for finals. Nothing unusual, just another college student finishing up his week. As he walked across the nearly empty parking lot to his car, flashing blue and red lights lit up the pavement behind him. 2 local police officers pulled up, stepped out, and immediately adopted a confrontational stance. "Hey, you! What are you doing around here?" one officer barked. James, taken aback, paused and calmly responded, "Just studying. Heading home now." That wasn't enough. They demanded ID, rifled through questions, and pressed him against his car without explanation. They claimed a suspect in a nearby theft matched his description, a vague excuse James had heard thrown around more times than he cared to remember. James stayed calm. He didn't raise his voice, but he knew his rights and his training. What the officers didn't know was that James wasn't just a college student. He was a U.S. Marine Corps reservist. He had completed basic training, served overseas, and held a black belt in Shotokan karate. His discipline taught him not just how to fight, but when not to. When one officer tried to twist his arm, James firmly but respectfully said, "Sir, I'm going to ask you to stop. You're violating my rights." They laughed. "And what are you going to do about it, college boy?" At that moment, another figure appeared, a campus security officer who recognized James. "Whoa! Whoa, guys! This is Sergeant Walker, Marine Corps. He teaches self-defense workshops here." The shift was immediate. The officer's expressions changed from smug to stunned. One of them cleared his throat. Didn't realize that." James gave a wry smile. "Now you do." The officers backed off, mumbling something about a misunderstanding. No apology, of course, just silence and tension hanging in the air. James didn't press charges. He didn't escalate. He didn't need to. His calm presence said everything. He got in his car and drove off into the night. Just a college kid, still dealing with exams, but with the kind of backbone and training you don't get from books. Want a more serious journalistic tone or something more humorous or fictionalized? The weekend passed quietly, but word of the incident didn't stay quiet for long. By Monday morning, whispers turned into conversations. Students on campus were talking. A video had surfaced, grainy cell phone footage from a nearby dorm window. It captured the tail end of the encounter, including the moment the campus security officer stepped in and the shocked reaction of the cops. It went viral, at least locally. "Marine student stands his ground" was the caption on a post that had already racked up thousands of shares by noon. James didn't post it. He hadn't even planned to tell anyone. But now the university administration wanted a meeting. So did the local news. And quietly, the police department reached out through unofficial channels with a request to talk. James agreed, but on his terms. He met with the chief of police later that week. Calm, composed, dressed in the same tidy way he always was. No uniform, no medals, just respect. He didn't yell, didn't threaten. He explained what it felt like to be profiled, what it meant to be trained in restraint and still be treated like a threat, what it felt like to have to prove you belonged again and again. To his surprise, the chief listened. And before the meeting ended, he asked James to speak at an upcoming police community workshop. "I'm not here to bash anyone," James said, "but I am here to educate, because this can't keep happening. Want to continue with the workshop scene or show how difficulty?" James stood at the front, not behind a podium, but out in the open. He wore no suit, no medals, just a plain black polo and jeans. Still, he stood like a Marine, shoulders square, eyes steady, voice calm but commanding. "I'm not here to talk about disrespect," he started. "I'm here to talk about perception." Silence. Total focus. James walked them through the night of the incident. Step by step, no embellishments, no theatrics, just facts. He described the fear not because he couldn't handle himself, but because he shouldn't have to. "I've trained for combat," he said, "but I shouldn't need to brace for a takedown walking to my car on campus." Then he shifted gears, broke down the power of de-escalation, of reading body language, of the importance of listening over assuming, and how respect, when given first, is usually returned. He even offered to lead self-defense and awareness sessions, not just for students but for officers too, to create dialogue, mutual understanding, maybe even a bit of humility. By the end of it, you could feel the shift in the room. When the applause came, it wasn't loud or showy, it was real. Even a few officers came up afterward, shook his hand and admitted, "We've got stuff to learn." James didn't want praise, he wanted progress, and he got it. Want to take it further? Maybe show how this sparks a broader campus series. Students began packing into the campus rec center for James's sessions. Awareness and action. It wasn't just about self-defense anymore. It was about knowing your rights, reading a situation, standing your ground with confidence, not aggression. James brought in guest speakers, veterans, civil rights lawyers, even a few reformed officers who shared their own wake-up calls. Word spread fast. Local high schools invited him to speak. Nearby colleges reached out. A non-profit contacted him about collaborating on a youth mentorship program. Meanwhile, the campus police department took its own steps. They revised protocol for student stops, hosted town halls, even started joint patrols where officers partnered with student liaisons. Small steps, maybe, but real ones. James never called himself an activist. He still aced his finals, still trained in the gym every morning, still went to class like any other student. But now, students were coming up to him between lectures, not just to say thank you, but to say you made me feel safer. The campus felt different. Not perfect, but better. Because one quiet Marine with a black belt and a calm voice reminded everyone that strength isn't just physical, it's how you carry yourself when no one expects you to. Want to close it with a future look? Maybe where James goes after graduation? Or keep the story alive with a twist?